Hello there, and a very warm welcome to this edition of the Citizens Chat Show, streaming on YouTube at Civic Space TV. My name is Judith Atim. Good to have you. And if you're watching us for the first time, welcome to the platform, and please do not forget to subscribe. Well, today we are talking about the ongoing update of the National Voters Register, as well as the defiance by the CDF, General Muhoozi to appear before the Defense Committee of Parliament, and implications of Trump's executive orders. Joining me to discuss this today are, of course, from my immediate left, Dr. Robert Ojambo, Head of the History Department at Chambogo University, our usual guest on the show. Good afternoon, Doctor, and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Next to Dr. Ojambo is Honorable Dr. Miria Matembe, senior citizen, retired politician, and former Minister for Ethics and Integrity. Dr. Matembe, good afternoon and welcome to the show.
What does retired politician mean?
Yes.
Are you retired? You're not retired.
What are
You've
you
not
talking
retired
about?
from politics.
I am not in elective politics.
Yes.
But I'm a politician by calling, by the way, by calling of God. Okay, I'm here on this chat, I think, for the first time. So don't expect much out of me unless I'm seriously provoked. But I'm glad to be here.
But it's not your first time. We've had you here a couple of times.
On
yes,
Thursday, I'm
yes,
always on the other side.
The women, yes.
The other thing, I don't know which one.
Okay, all the same, we are glad that you've made time to be with us. I know you've had quite a busy day, but we are happy to have you, Doctor. And also, let me welcome you, Mr. Joseph Othieno, to the show. Mr. Joseph Othieno is a political commentator and also a UPC ideologue. Good afternoon, Joseph, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm a politician, and I'm a politician of the future. And
not retired.
I'm delighted to be next to Dr. Matembe. And in fact, Dr. Matembe, we sat next to each other some time ago. But of course, because we do so many of these, including some of the programs, so sometimes you know.
But I'm not a constant.
No.
Yes, yeah. So that's fantastic. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And of course, last but not least is retired Major Awich Pollar, who has been missing for quite a while. Major Awich is, of course, the Director for External Relations at NRM. Major, good to have you after a couple of weeks. We missed you on the show, but we're happy that you've made time to be with us this week.
Thank you so much. I think you are spot on the diction, the choice of words for retirement. For the Army, yes. So you are right. It's a right diction, choice of word. I'm retired Army officer.
Do Army retire?
They do.
Yes.
What about Sabarwan? He's always putting on the uniform and telling us how he's Sabarwan. And yet I remember you retired long ago. So
well,
what we call retirement in the Army.
We can discuss that.
So
I'm sorry I have been away for long, but I have been meeting revolutionaries around the world. I was in Venezuela with the revolutionaries. I was in South Africa with ANC. And the day before yesterday, I was with CCM. And we attended their national congress. So I really enjoyed being away because I was meeting other revolutionaries. But for this segment, I'd like to say I'm also happy to be with the Honorable Matembe, because Honorable Matembe, they were teasing me that today Dr. Sarah is not there since they were Antare. They used to tease me. But I said, but Matembe is worse. 6 years in Matembe. The husband is Anobi. All the 4 sons were with me. So if you think Sarah is not there, this is even a better substitute.
But you said worse. I thought you were going to say. I was listening. So I thought you were better with Antare.
Better. I said it's even better. 6 years, the whole family. The husband, the 4 sons, everybody. So if you thought you had removed Sarah and substituted,
we are actually envious.
Except I want to calm down your excitement.
Yes.
We're entirely, yes, and I respect that. Except on the question of the revolutionaries. You've been visiting revolutionaries in Cuba, in South Africa, and
Tanzania.
Those are UPC revolutionary political parties. And as it is today, we don't know whether they really qualify. But anyway.
Well, thank you very much. Major, I would have loved to hear your stories about the experiences that you've had in these countries where you've been, just in about a minute or so. What do you think stood out for you?
I can talk, wow, it's much. Let me summarize. I start with South Africa. South Africa, ANC is in power. Remember, they didn't get absolute majority. But right now, the imperialism is closing on them and squeezing them, and that's why they sponsored the other
But we
parties.
expected
That made them not get 50%. Now they're in a coalition. Now, a message they are sending is that every big city you go to, you find the ordinary 1 inch have just taken over land and build. The wall is a Mabati, the top is and like from here to Rubaga.
Swaths of land,
So it's really a big message. They're saying we got freedom, but where is it? And it's really a challenge for them. If you look at that, you even wonder, maybe the crime rate is even little. Because these people in this Mabati, you even wonder where the toilet is. Every city, they're sending a message. So it's a terrible thing. We really pray for ANC to manage and change the status quo. Venezuela, these guys have the biggest oil deposit in the world. They said they can exploit it at this rate up to 300 years. Americans are on them. They have passed sanctions. The country is struggling. Why? Because the Americans wanted to. They were getting their oil raw and putting it for tarmac in America, that it is raw, that it is
crude.
Yes. Said, but you have not even processed it. They were just making it to that tarmac. So they're in problem. Tanzania, they had a National Congress. They seem organized. They have now got a flag bearer and then a running mate. So meaning that they already have a candidate, and should he win, then the next candidate. And we are happy that Kikwete was there as a former president. So they have peace and they are happy. We boarded their train. They deliberately wanted to showcase 550 kilometers on their modern train.
The SGR.
So good. They deliberately said foreign delegates and ambassadors train from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, 550 kilometers, to show us what they have. And they have really done. We pray that we pick best practices and move on like they have done.
Thank you.
I didn't get, the opposition has got a candidate and a runmate.
No. CCM, the Congress that we attended, like the NRM Nambole. Like the NRM Nambole would get a flag bearer, you know the arrangement, they have like
to
Kenya,
replace the
where you have a, Of course the flag was given to the incumbent. The incumbent, the lady. The lady has now got a flag and got a running mate.
Okay.
Oh, that's what I wanted to
All right.
get it
That's
clear.
interesting. Now we get
she's
back.
going to stand for the first time because the other time she was finishing.
Yeah,
the
I
term.
was
Magufuli's
thinking they
term.
had put her
Yes.
side. That's why I wanted to get
It
it.
is
Yeah.
only the running mate whom they have changed.
Yeah, they picked the Secretary General as the running mate now.
But just to say something about these revolutionaries where Major Awich has been. For South Africa, don't even think that what is happening in South Africa is far from us. Because once resources, for those who know economics, are limited, and therefore you have to share those resources. In South Africa, resources were only given to the apartheid supporters. And because of that, very many people, the black people of the black origin, have nowhere to stay. They have to find where to stay. In Kampala here and in Uganda generally, rich men and the people who are in government are taking land from the poor people. But when you look at the birth rate is higher among the poor people than the good. Because for us now, you have 4 children, 3 children, because you are following family planning and you are busy. The local people are producing. Very soon, you will also see those manyatas developing because people must find where to stay until government comes up with a program. I have told you on this program that government abandoned projects like housing. They abandoned projects like they are building markets, but they are building markets for where will the people stay. The last houses we have here, which were constructed by government, were by this is what surprises you. Whereby the Bugolovi flats, the Bukoto flats.
By UPC.
About
Nalia.
Nalia.
No. Bukoto flats were by
No, all those house buildings were by UPC, but Amin contributed as it continued.
Okay, I know they were built by Amin. Maybe the project might have been
Doctor,
started
think of
by
Nalia
UPC.
and Namangona housing.
But now, like, look at us. The population has almost tripled. But the government does not have any housing project. In fact, what they are doing is to break and chase away people where they are staying and give it to rich people. The case in point is Naguru. So just wait. People are going to come at your gate and build there and stay there.
Well, we'll revisit this conversation. I want us to get back to what we're talking about today, the focus of our discussion, 3 issues. But I want us to first start by the ongoing update of the National Voters Register, which started on Monday, the 20th, this week. It's just a week or so into the exercise. The Electoral Commission is conducting this exercise, but also the comments that we are reading, the feedback we are getting from people, the fact about the issue of the limited publicity, the lack of awareness that citizens are actually talking about, and also contradictions when it comes to issues of national identity cards. A lot of people do not have the IDs, and we know that NERA delayed this process. This is a process that should have started last year, the update of the national voters, of the national IDs. And now we are having the EC rolling out this exercise with so many Ugandans not having identification documents to actually enable them register to vote and so on. So the implications of these contradictory actions by these entities of the government and how it impacts on the citizens' right to vote. Let me start with you. I don't know if you've actually updated your particulars already or not, but just your quick thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. I want to take this opportunity to begin by congratulating our young lads and ladies who have received their results, which were declared yesterday. We are, because that is the future of this country. Primary living examinations and the passing. For the first time, this has been the biggest number of kids who sat PLE. I know some are happy, some are not, but for us, we see that as our hope. The only problem is that we are moving behind the time. The PLE is being discussed, released on 23rd of January. O-level, we are not yet sure. A-level, we are not yet sure. And remember, A-level is going to begin a new curriculum this year. But we have not seen the curriculum yet. So there is a huge problem in the education sector. If you check the same day that we released our PLE, Tanzania, where Major Awich has been, was releasing their Senior 4 results. For us, we don't know when Senior 4 will be released. But I think that is an area which links now to what we are going to discuss today. Because when you have a country where there are a lot of uncertainties in education, then you have a problem with what you are talking about, voters, whatever, registration, because those things depend on the literacy level of a country. And in addition to literacy, people must be civically okay. Now, there are 2 bodies which are mandated by the Constitution to do civic education in Uganda. But many of them have abdicated their duties. That is the Electoral Commission and the Human Rights Commission. Is it called Commission? Uganda Human Rights Commission. That is one of their mandates, to give citizens civic education. In Uganda here, the only time you see Electoral Commission is when they are doing now when they are starting the electoral process, because voter registration and update is already a process. We have already started our electoral process. Now they are coming. You wonder whether they have been on leave or they had been closed. Now they are coming at a time when we are supposed to renew or to register, but members don't even know what to do. There have not been any civic education. If they have been doing it, maybe I have not been in touch with it. The Human Rights Commission, that one is there to deny whether human rights have been abused or not abused. In fact, they were supposed to find out human rights abuses. But these days you hear them, their work is to deny that, you see, that one is not true. They were not abused. And so, and yet they're supposed to be receiving. But above all, they are supposed to give civic education, because it is out of civic education that people can even know about what is human rights and what is human about their rights. Now, coming to this process, remember NRM, I have always told you that Yoweri Museveni is a very clever leader, and for those who know English, you know what I mean. They started by NRM registration. So we have parallel registrations, all being carried out as if they are government and national things. And I told the people that the census, the human census, which we had last year, was just going to fulfill what NRM had found out in their thing. And I was shocked. NRM told us that the number of registered voters for NRM is almost equal to the number of voters in Uganda, which means everybody who is a voter here is almost NRM. Now, that's why you see there is a confusion. You remember in the last election, the NRM register failed to work. You have seen many of our elections where there is a problem between the voters declared and the number of voters in some voting places. There is multiple voting, there is a number of problems, and they tell us that this thing is okay. Now, if you give a whole country which has been waiting for an election to do a process like this in only 21 days, in a country where you know very well we are not yet 100% IT, number two, most of our people are not, they are not politically literate. In fact, some are asking now again, why are we registering when the president is there? So for me, I really feel that we needed to do better. The Electoral Commission has not done its work well. Because in every district in Uganda, we have a registrar. Every district in Uganda, we have a registrar. So me, I thought this would have been the work of the registrar. It should be a continuous process that after election, you start updating. Everybody who reaches the age of voting should be updating. We shouldn't be waiting for a few weeks. Like right now, they have given us 21 days to do a voter update and registration. You remember, we are looking at people who were 16 2 years ago. They have now made 18. Now, by the time of election, somebody of 17 today will be eligible to vote. So these are really very difficult things. Then in NIRA, as you have said, is also a very big problem. You know, there have been a debate on us buying our identity cards. There have been a debate. There was a proposal that we needed to pay 200,000 to renew an ID. That one was freezed somehow. As we talk, many of us have expired IDs. So it means right now we are, our identity as citizens of Uganda expired. So it becomes very problematic. Parliament was debating to increase renewal rates 200,000. I was really surprised that we can even discuss such things. So there is a lot of problems still with our country. Issues of citizenry. You remember just recently, the president has signed a directive declaring a certain group of people citizens of Uganda. They went and besieged him, and he has signed that now all of them are citizens.
Which ones you named them?
But they don't want to be called Banyarwanda. They want to be called Bavandime, because those ones we don't have them in our constitution.
So and how is it coming now to be in our constitution?
No, the Bavandime are saying that what is in the constitution is Banyarwanda. They want to be called Bavandime.
And who is supposed to order to change the constitution?
The president has already supported them. So,
what does that mean?
And this
I'm sorry to disturb you, but I'm a lawyer who made a constitution and who know that tribes we listed and why we listed them. And I'm not aware that the president accepts on his own, as the president accepts a certain tribe of people and orders that they now become Ugandans. I am not aware.
I don't know whether that is the process of how it is going to begin and go there, but I'm just giving you facts as they are. So for me, I really feel that we need to clear. You know, with the Congolese conflict for the last 10 years, we have the highest number of refugees in Africa. And these refugees have given birth to children, Others have left the refugee camps. They are now living in the common land like other Ugandans. I went to a refugee camp to interview one of the leaders there. I was doing a study, and the man had brought his mother to the specialized hospital in Mulago. And I asked him, "You man, how come for you a refugee you can even have a chance?" He said, "I'm a businessman. I have a lot of money. So if I have money, I can take." So if a refugee has a lot of money, he has even bought land, he is building shops in these places, how do you differentiate him from a refugee? And many others from South Sudan. If you go to areas of Namuongo, if you go to areas of Naria, if you go to areas of Nigeria and the Entebbe Road, you find so many Sudanese. They are giving birth to children. So these children are when they're in Uganda, they are Ugandans. When they're in South Sudan, they are South Sudan, but they are not dual citizens. So we needed a very good process to determine who is qualified to be a voter in Uganda, and that requires good system, it requires a good civic education, and it requires good governance. We lack all the three. I see a lot of problems.
Thank you, Dr. Ojambo. Dr. Matembe, if you could now pick up from when he has finished his submission. We are still talking about the issue of...
For me, first of all, the issue of elections. As far as I'm concerned, in Uganda, elections are meaningless. They are only supposed to endorse and legitimize President Museveni's life presidency. So far, that's the value of elections. Otherwise, there is no other value. If I'm telling lies,
you are right.
And I'm coming to why I've started with that one. What he has said and concluded simply shows you that. He started by saying, I wanted to correct the word which you said, that the Electoral Commission and the human rights have
a responsibility to
you said have abdicated. Who are them? Have they really abdicated? They have been incapacitated. Because of the objective of elections having to legitimize President Museveni's life presidency, these people, Human Rights Commission, Electoral Commission, do not have any resources to do their assignment. Therefore, they are incapacitated to do that. And it is deliberate. Because if you go and educate Ugandan, and you people, when you see me at times, Matembe, talking with such a passion, which people call anger, I don't talk angry. I have a passion for this nation. I love it. And you know, I was a commissioner on Uganda Constitutional Commission. And we traversed the whole country. And we know what the people of Uganda wanted. And we came to CA. And we are saying, yes, Ugandans must know. Ugandans must be educated. They must be informed. They must be mobilized and educated about all these processes, so that they own this country and they own the authority in accordance with the constitution, that the authority, what does our first article say? All power. Can you exercise the power which belongs to you when you are extremely ignorant, unaware of your rights, unaware of how you exercise those rights, unaware completely? So that's why we are saying Human Rights Commission, Electoral Commission, please educate people about all these processes, so that even when they go to exercise their power, they know that power, and they are handing over that power to the individuals whom they have already known that they will carry them on. And therefore, that one, the denial and the incapacitating those institutions to do their work, is another way of demeaning and making elections not valuable. Then another point which I want to pick from what he was saying. I personally heard who is the one who is responsible for counting people. Census.
Yes.
Who is the commissioner?
You
boss. I already had you boss. Before I had you boss talking, I saw the whole fun, how the exercise was going on, people throwing away the pins and shouting and fighting that they are not going to count and that kind of thing. I said, well, maybe these people Katembas and so on. But then I had you boss, I don't know whether you people had it. They said for sure the exercise did not go well. I had them. Those may not be the very words, but they said probably if there is an opportunity, we may have to repeat the exercise. I heard those may not be the very words.
Something to that effect.
But it was like that. Those are my words, but that's what it was saying. Now, they never had the opportunity to repeat the exercise. Now, which people are they counting now? If they don't know how many people, what census brought forward, whether do they have the right number? What do they have now that they are going to count as people who are even eligible to vote even before they register those people? So for me, just that kind of situation which is like that. And of course, as he says, in a normal, sensible governance or government, the registration of voters? Yeah, voters. Because when you grow, when you knock 18, should be continuous. Every time you are knocking 18, go and register yourself with the Electoral Commission. The offices where they are, people would be registering those people. But now if we wake up one day, my friend Biamukama, my land friend, he's my lord, yes. At one time he was my Lord, but I think he lost it. My Lord is now Jesus Christ. When I see him, waking up out of the, come and register. I'm here. Register who? Aren't you a lawyer? Aren't you a former judge? Don't you know how things should be done? Because they silence you, because you want jobs, you wake up, come and register. Register what? Why hasn't he been putting forward before Parliament that please, we have to continue, registration should be continuing. So for me, let me stop here. But what I read out of it, my conclusion which I made, elections in Uganda are completely meaningless. They cannot bring us a government that can be a government of the people and for the people and by the people. They are just to legitimize and legalize President Museveni's life presidency.
Thank you, Dr. Matembe. Joseph, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but also do you share similar thoughts about the meaning of elections in Uganda? And if indeed they have lost meaning, like Dr. Matembe says, how do we salvage the situation? How do we give it meaning?
I think at the rate, has really never had any meanings. Even the last time we hosted, we were the same panel with Dr. Matembe, but I think we've been in some other panels where some of these issues have come up. And part of our very optimistic conversations in some areas which I don't necessarily agree about the 1995 Constitution, but they're the makers. If you listen to Dr. Matembe and most of the members of the CA, while I'm critical about the Constitution and formations and the circumstances leading to it, you find that most of these leaders are quite in distress because these were sensible, decent, well-meaning, and in many cases, totally committed citizens who genuinely thought in their minds at the time that they were managing a broad national lacuna that would, at last,
create a new Uganda.
Create a genuine Uganda. Whatever your opinions, as it were. These guys tried to do as well and as best as they could. The first election, which at the time was actually purely still monolithic, in which it was Mr. Museveni and no political party competitor, was with Dr. Semoga. If you go into the background of how many new polling stations, I was listening to Robert Mao yesterday, were created that emerged in 1996. And then fast forward, you begin the other real battle with poor Dr. Kizza Besigye in 2011. To date, Nay. And it's very, very sad. And you know what? It is such a long time. But back to the question of the electoral system in terms of the electoral register. I have worked in local government elsewhere, and I have supervised some of these things even as matter of formalities. And I just don't know what is it with this continent of Africa, that basically managing an electoral system, meaning electoral register, it should become such a scramble. Again, as both doctors said, this should be routine process, and I've had this conversation before. It should be matters of routine. Really, the problem should, the end date should be the cutoff point, where possibly by now, the Electoral Commission will say that, well, cutoff point for updating the electoral register would possibly be in January, February, March. But the other thing also is actually the timing. In Britain, actually, I think it's 4 weeks to elections. That they give you before your final date for amendments or updating or perhaps registering to vote. So what is it with this system that we've had that today is January and we're doing this thing to February, elections in that next year? Does it show a system incompetence or what is it? So in terms of the timing, those are number two. But then number three, the question of how much of this has been advertised. Of course, I've not followed it closely, but most of the reports have suggested, when Comrade Awich, while we were busy visiting revolutionary political parties, that I hope I'm able to help you guys know what real revolutions are. Part of the thing that has been said was how slow the process has been. Most commonly has been people not being sufficiently aware about the exercise in rural Uganda. And then, of course, in many cases, those of us really the political elites, we sometimes see these things from our own lived experiences, maybe even some of our own communities in rural spaces. But we forget that the majority of Ugandans are really, really, really deep in down there, rural spaces. People don't have access to television, they don't have access to social media. And so that's part of the problem. So it's very worrying. So maybe Dr. Jambo is possibly right that if this is something which is followed up as part of the NRA thing, these guys did and designed their own things, and it will not be surprising that come next elections, many people will wake up to the realities to go to the elections and find that their names do not necessarily exist or are missing, and some of these things have been swapped. I was speaking to a fairly eminent young upper middle class Ugandan from northern Uganda 2 days ago, and she told me very authoritatively, Dr. Matembe, two things. One is that she's considering withdrawing her register to come and vote for a particular, a popular member of parliament in Kampala, in her area, rather than, quote, wasting her money to go and vote somewhere up there in the north. And part of her argument is that whatever you do, those things actually generally don't go to work. So surprisingly, actually, a matter of interest, although this particular member of parliament in town is from the opposition political party, without prejudice to the challenges we're putting onto the Electoral Commission, she believes that actually in some of these urbanized spaces, they're possibly slightly much easier to manage and to monitor. But most importantly, it's telling you that Ugandans are increasingly raising the point, Dr. Matembe said, that perhaps is it really a waste of time to participate in this electoral system? For me, as a political activist and a politician, and someone who's campaigned for return to multipartyism, I get rather concerned, because if that catches on, and the majority of critical Ugandans, particularly young ones, begin to say that, well, it's a waste of time, not only with Mr. Museveni's son abuse them in using his Twitter, including the National Assembly, and have nothing to do, but people simply say that, well, whatever you do, the results will always be the same because it's predetermined.
Interesting. Major, over to you now.
Thank you so much. I think the issue before us and the issue on the table is the Electoral Commission update. I think I kind of share the same sentiments with my colleagues. For example, I do not even see if an ordinary person, or even not an ordinary person, a daily, know the definition of this exercise. If you stop somebody on Kampala Road and interview, Electoral Commission is doing update, what does it mean? Nobody will even tell you, for example, it is those who have 18 who are going to be there, or you are going to see if your name is still there. whether somebody had declared you dead or you are still alive. You know, the conception position now is not even clear. You can even leave this room and go and do an interview outside the door. Just stop somebody and say, my brother or my sister, Electoral Commission is doing an up-to-date exercise. What do you understand by it? What is it? Somebody will fumble. So the mere fact that even the conception, in summary, of this exercise, not known to people, is a cause for what? Because nobody knows it. And therefore, that's why I'm saying, I hope it won't be like Obos, like Dr. Matembe said. Obos, where the exercise was so mishandled that the data for TESO is brought to Bugisu, and then they brought the data for Bugisu, is taken to Bunyoro, and then what were we doing? So, if it is 21 days and we are going to be bound by that, I think they still have room for remedy. Especially with my view that even at a conception position with awareness, that you stop 5 people on the street and ask, and nearly none will tell you what it is about. Or even if that person was to go to that update center, he doesn't even expect, I'm here at this center to do what? It is just in a minibus form, in that blanket thing, update. So the problem here is that if somebody doesn't understand, he'll say, let me first go and drink Marua. Because he will be fumbling with it in his head. I'm going for update under that mango tree. What time will I go? At 2? What will I go to do under that mango tree? Once it appears not clear, okay, where is Marua? We will go to Marua. So that is my worry. The other thing I wanted to comment is that for us as a party, I wanted to invite the doctor to refrain from his imagination, which appears like conspiracy theory. For us, we are doing our update on our own without anything. Because we had a problem in the last campaign where we had such a dirty registry or confused registry that President Museveni woke up and said, if you think you are NRM, go and vote. So for us, we thought without Justice Biawakama, for us, we wanted to sort our party right. So I want to clear it to you that our update registry that we have been struggling with, we have been struggling to cure our own challenges, to cure our own mischief, basing on the history that we have. Because for that, if we have a poor registry, then we have unclear flag bearers. The flag bearers complained the election was bad, and then they keep fighting. Also, electing our structures becomes a problem because we have to have a structure which will come to Manambole. That structure will give our flag bearer a flag. Otherwise, without that, maybe our President Museveni would go.
But your flag bearer is automatic.
No, we have the legal procedure. We have the constitution.
You face the camera and speak.
Because you are talking to me. Because you are talking to me. How do I face the camera?
Please emphasize
How do I face the camera when you are talking? The point here is, NRM is an institutional party with a constitution. And by the way, for record, we are the only party with a code of conduct, which you have even tested in the jurisprudence by trying our party members in our party code. UPC, the only thing that mentions in their constitution is, there shall be a code of conduct. It stops there. For us, we have it.
What is the meaning of a code of conduct which is meaningless? A code of conduct which must follow democratic principles and rules, which says, Soro candidate all his life. What are you talking about?
The code of conduct here is a set of rules that defines do's and do nots.
But they don't do
do's
what
and
they
do
say
not.
do.
And that's what I'm saying. Those who have transgressed, we have taken them to party disciplinary procedures. And it has worked.
Is Balam a member of your party? Is Balam a member of your party?
I'm not sure. I need to check his
Because
they are party members. I don't know. I need to check his registration. So therefore, I am saying that for the party, Dr. Jambo, please, for us, we were decided on this party registry with or without Biamakama because we have been a casualty in the past. Like I told you, we had such a poor registry that Museveni woke up and said, go and vote. And that was terrible because for us, in an area where there was opposition, the opposition went and lined up behind a weak NRM candidate. to defeat a strong NRM candidate. Because there was no register. So I want to make that clear. Now, about still worrying about the status quo that is really making the exercises uncertain is the issue of ID. So I don't know whether an expired ID, if you went with it under a mango tree,
that's correct.
if you went under a mango tree doing exercise and you have an expired ID, I don't know whether the Election Commission would update you. Or the Election Commission would say, your ID is expired. So this brings contradiction. And the further contradiction is that you have a Ugandan with an expired ID, but a valid passport.
Yes.
So, is he expired citizen and yet he has a valid passport? I think these are some of the things that as government should be cleared immediately. And I don't think it needs rocket science to have it cleared. If it was a legal provision by an act of parliament that registers should be renewed, then I would think there should have been a difference between renewing the card and renewing your citizenship. For example, if the card is torn, wouldn't we put in the provision of a mere renewal of the card itself, but not to say in black and white that this is the expiry date? So these are things which can be done, because to every problem there's a solution. All the brains that are there cannot fail to get a draft. Otherwise, now how do you cure a contradiction where you have an expired ID, you have a valid passport, and you are the same Dr. Biam? What is that? So that thing needs to be clear. Because it will now put the Election Commission, if you use the ID as a valid document for validation of a voter registry. So are you going to chase me because I am a Ugandan with an expired ID? Maybe the guidelines is detailed, but such things.
Major, sorry, just to interrupt briefly, sorry. The issue of the expired national IDs, last year the Ministry of Internal Affairs made a clarity through Parliament, and they said any expired IDs would still be valid. So even if your ID is expired, government recognizes that it is still, because the mistake was on the part of NIRA that delayed to procure the equipment for the update of the IDs. But by law, your ID is still valid even if it is expired.
For these purposes?
Yes.
Okay.
The problem, however, is now for those who had not yet registered, who don't have valid IDs, who do not have IDs completely because there was a delay in the procurement of the equipment. So there was
fine. That's why I was making a disclaimer that maybe there is some guideline which covers. I wanted to make that disclaimer, and indeed I admit it. It is possible. For example, during COVID, where the electoral cycle for party executives had expired, Parliament went and passed a resolution put by Professor Kamuntu, the Minister of Constitutional Affairs, that all the office holders of the various political parties in Uganda, due to the challenge then, their term of office was extended. They used the parliamentary resolution, and that is, so I'm glad that this also came through Parliament. That's fine then. I wanted to put that disclaimer. Now, the citizenship question, which also impact on this thing, I can see it be debated. I have read that executive order from the president, and my opinion was that the Constitution as it is, for me, it is suffice for the definition of a citizen, because it provides that as by 1926,
around
February, is it 26 also? Whoever was in Uganda in an indigenous community becomes Ugandan. Meaning that if you are a Kakwa, and at that time that community was there and you are born in that community, your father, grandfather, what becomes. And that's why our Banyarwanda brothers from Tungamo qualified. Now, the issue was, how about if you were in Uganda but not an indigenous community? Which I believe it was debated. For example, the Indians who were there, but there is no indigenous community called Indians. Therefore, I'm sure the Indian even tried a court case, but it didn't work. So I don't know whether our brothers and sisters who came from other parts of the world on individual basis want to use this window. There are other windows that they could have used to acquire citizenship, but they want to use more or less by force this of being found there. For me, the way the Constitution provided it was sufficient. So I'm yet to see the executive order, and I don't know whether an executive order becomes a force of law, and I don't know whether it has to be further operationalized by an act of parliament. I don't know how it will work. For example, if an executive order brought in people from Indonesia, would they therefore say it reigns at the same level with a constitutional provision? But I am confident that that citizenship thing was sufficient. Let's watch it. I will read the executive order again and try to internalize it. Finally, my comment on the refugees. It is good that as Ugandans, we are very hospitable to refugees. For a long time, Uganda has been ranked by High Commissioner for Refugees as #1 refugee-friendly country in the world.
No, #2,
So
but
three.
#1 in Africa.
No, let me finish my submission. You will do yours. It has been, in my opinion, it has been #1 in the whole world until Turkey took over. And I took my time to understand why Turkey took over. Turkey took over, first of all, because of the insecurity in the area. Middle East, Iraq, and everywhere they came. But two, Turkey is funded by European Union to act as a gate, a buffer zone to stop refugees from going to Europe. So they get lots of money, and that money they are forced to be disciplined to earn more money because they're a gateway to Europe, and Europe gives them. But for us, we live on the usual UN funding, not European Union, and which is limited, but good enough. But friendliness on person to person, we have it. During a means time, even Ugandans who went to Kenya, they would ask you for kitambulisho on the street. Ugandans were not as free in Kenya like you have Somalis everywhere. However, on the question of land, I don't know how it is coming. Because the land, there is two provisions I keep saying in the Constitution. People think it is one and the same. Power belongs to the people. Power belongs to the people. Land belongs to the citizens. Why didn't they write in the Constitution that land belongs to the people? The people would mean any human being. But the Constitution says land belongs to the citizens. So who are these non-foreigners who are owning land? Are we very complacent with our law? Even a company, if you want a company to own land in Uganda, you are from South Africa, you have to register it in a way that the company has actually bigger share of Ugandans in it for it to qualify. So who are these foreigners owning land? So our refugee-friendly friendliness should not be abused, should not be exhausted, because the Constitution provides land belong to the citizens. If it wasn't this, Chinese would come and buy all the land and say land is for the Chinese. So I'm wondering what is this. So in a nutshell, therefore, the voter update or voter, whatever it is put, to me is not picking up at this pace, and I fear it may be like Obas. The 21 days are still there. Electoral Commission still can remedy it by making us understand even what is this exercise that an average man or woman on the street doesn't even know.
Thank you.
For me, I just want to
please.
make a comment which I missed on this. You know, it's my fault because I'm not I don't hold any position. I don't have. I relax and say, let me have peace. And many times I don't follow up.
Very nice state.
Don't follow up things which would incite me or disturb my peace. So I had heard about certain people. They even rang me, somebody rang me and said, you know, we are Nyarwandis. That's why I asked which group are you, why are you hiding it? They were calling me. In fact, I remember I was in Barara calling me. Now we want to know, we are being chased out. I said, who are you? And then we discussed, and they were saying, the Constitution says 1920, whatever. I was there making it. When we were saying that people, of course, who were there at that time, and the children they delivered and they continued to be here and be here, those people were given citizenship. according to what I know we were putting, people said the intention of the people who are making the law.
Yes,
Me, I remember we discussed those things very well and said certain time there. If you were here and you from there, if the children belong to those people who were here that time, then they would become citizens. So I was talking to this person who was talking to me. We Banyarwanda, I said, but which ones? Because who are not, we have so many Banyarwanda here who are citizens. They are here. Some of them actually left our citizenship and went back to Rwanda. He said for us, we prefer to go to the other place. But what I'm talking about, I had that for a long time. And let me tell you one thing, one thing that hurts me is that our president has in his mind a certain category of people who, when you follow, they sort of share the same ethnicity, whether they come from Rwanda, whether they come from Congo, whether they come from where. He has some special love for those people. And one thing that is paining me is that those people are slowly taking over our land. They are becoming the ones who matter more than the very Ugandans in this country. You can say one time, for me, once in a while, like President himself, he says, now my eyes were opened now. At times also, my eyes get opened. Because one time, we were putting the bishop of, which is, they call it Ankole, Nyabshozi Chiruhura there, what is it called?
Ankole East.
The East, is it the East?
Yes, Ankole, I think, yes.
We were putting on the bishop of that place. Some time ago, and I think, parted ways with NRM. I mean NRM party. The party was not there yet. I was still in the movement, but of course when I disagreed with the president, they got us out of the bus and threw us by the roadside and took away our bus to turn it into a party. So I was there that time. And President Museveni stood on the pulpit. And he got a woman on the podium there, A huge woman, like, our style there in Ankole. In Ankole, even in South Africa, by the way, those people are there, Botswana, where, Swaziland. We are the same sort of ethnicity. It goes across Africa. So she was that, and she stood up and said, you people. And that's when we were fighting with Congo, something. When they were invading Congo and stealing their minerals and so on. And he said, now, you stand here and they see you. Look at this woman. She was introducing her there in Chiruhura where we were, they are ordaining the bishop. You look at her. Is she different? They are, when we are putting our bishop. Look at her. Is she different from us? She's ours. Murenge, Simanyu Murenge. And she said, you speak Wama, greet these people. And then she said, is she different from us? Why shouldn't we fight for our people? And these are our people. In my mind, I looked, I said, Choka, this president. And this was long ago. I said, this president, whatever is working out, our nation may go and belong to other people other than us Ugandans. And so you can see. Now when you tell me, what are they called?
Vandime.
Vandime is what? Vandime.
That's from the same stomach.
How can you call Vandime? Have you ever heard?
Indigenous community.
In Uganda called
Me, I've just heard it for the first time today.
And why are they? Because the Constitution now quote him, because the Constitution allows the Banyarwanda from a certain time which is there. Now, because he sees the new ones, those new ones who are Vavambindima and whatever they are not the original ones who are contained in the Constitution. And now they create a union. Because those people were arguing with me, I told them, go and read the Constitution. That Constitution has a list of Banyarwanda. And people were blaming me because for me, I remember I talked very vocal. You know, I am vocal when I'm defending things. I talked, the Banyarwanda wanted to be listed among the tribes in the country.
Communities, yes.
And originally, I was objecting because I had never traveled to go to Chisoro. When I traveled and reached Chisoro and found that actually when they were cutting off Rwanda from
you got the context.
Uganda,
yes.
they left the Banyarwanda in Uganda and some in Rwanda. And now they were calling them Bafumbira, you know, to hide whatever during Obote because they didn't like Banyarwanda. They called themselves Bafumbira and so on. But when I found the truth, I said, I mean, if I'm a Munyarwanda and I belong here in Uganda, why shouldn't my tribe be listed among the tribe that are listed in Uganda tribes? Because that's exactly what they were. When they cut us like this, so the Banyarwanda, I talked for them. In fact, at times people say, you are the one who brought this thing. I said, me, I always do what is fair and just. Because why should I be a Munyankore? Because they have put me, they cut the Mbarara between Kabara and whatever, and I find myself in Kabari, in Kigezi, that because I'm in Kigezi, I must be called a Muchiga. When I know I'm a Munyankore, why should I be called a Munyankore living in Kigezi? Isn't it okay to do that? So I pleaded for them and they listed Banyarwanda. But this Simanyino Bavandime, that's wrong. And secondly, please, President Museveni has done enough to demean Ugandans. Uganda belongs to Ugandans. It doesn't belong to him. He cannot be the one who must decree or direct who should be a Ugandan or not. No. On this one, I'm saying no also, because I'm much of a Ugandan as him. He has no powers to declare who should be a Ugandan and who should not. And surely Ugandans should raise up. Because those people you see who are coming in, they are the ones with all the wealth. They are the ones with all the land. The land is going to those people, I'm telling you. By the time Ugandans wake up like this, they will find they are slaves to people who should have been non-Ugandans.
Thank you, Doctor. Now I want us to move on to the next top discussion point, which is, of course, the erratic tweets or posts on the social platform X by the Chief of Defense Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, which have actually caused quite a lot of debate, but also a lot of genuine concerns from people, especially when it comes to issues of human rights. It started with threats to behead Bobi Wine, the president of the NUP party. Then when Dr. Kizza Besigye was, as he continues, of course, being detained in Luzera, battling his court case at the General Court Martial, not too long ago, we saw the CDF again going on X and posting again, threats on the life of Dr. Kizza Besigye, threats that they already had plans of hanging him, and the day had already been chosen. It would be May 9th, that would be Heroes Day, and so on. Atrocious comments, to say the least. And when the Ministry of Defense recently went before the Committee of Parliament, the Defense Committee of Parliament, to present their budget requests, the committee, of course, made it known that they were not pleased with the comments by the CDF and asked the Minister of Defense to actually invite the CDF to appear before the committee. And in response, again, we go on Twitter and we see the CDF commenting, calling the members of Parliament idiots and clowns and saying he will not appear before that committee. And now we are seeing, again, comments by him on Twitter, on X still, mobilizing members of the Patriotic League, which is his formation, to go on the street on the 10th of February to protest against Parliament, because he says that's a house that is the most corrupt and the protest is going to be against grand corruption by Parliament. It is disturbing, of course. The tweets are erratic, and a lot of times people question what is the CDF thinking? What is the president thinking? Why doesn't he check in on his son and the CDF? Robert, let me start with you. Just when you saw these tweets, we've talked about this, but again, the CDF defying an order by a committee of parliament which has powers of the High Court. What message, again, is he sending?
Yeah, you see, like for us who are students of history, of course, non-historians normally say history repeats itself. But for us, we say no, it is the events which keep reoccurring. These events have been in this country for some time. One time I was discussing with a friend, and I was arguing that if somebody becomes a minister in the government of Uganda, there are certain things they are not supposed to do. And my argument was, you cannot be a minister of defense or minister of trade or minister of something, and you're also a trader. Because it becomes now very difficult. And that argument came at that time when we had one trader who was a minister in the name of Kahinda Otafire, who was bringing in sugar and timber from Congo. And he was refusing to pay taxes. Now, the people who normally collect taxes are commissioners and tax collectors. And if it is reinforcement, it is just common policemen and soldiers. They call Otafire, and Otafire refuses to go there. And I was saying, I think this is something that the president should go through with his ministries. That once you come into public domain, you should avoid certain things that bring conflict of interest. There is a conflict of interest. Muhoozi is not the first to refuse to go to parliament. You are aware that the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Education, comes from the same home. Many times she has been invited to the Committee of Education, and she has failed to appear. In fact, if anybody has a record can correct me, ever since this parliament began, the minister has never stepped in parliament. The Minister of Education has never stepped in parliament. And the explanation has been that the minister, being the wife of the president, they are conscious of COVID, and because of COVID protocols, they don't want the minister to come where there are so many people because he's close to the president. But my question was, then why should such a person remain in that big docket which needs accountability? In most cases, he sends Muyingo or Kaduchu. And many things have not been answered because the minister cannot go there. Kahinda Otafire, several times he has refused to appear before the committees of parliament. And nothing has happened. So what Muhoozi is doing is not the first thing. The only problem is that Muhoozi has added there some ingredients. At least the Minister of Education does not abuse parliament, does not ridicule them, just explains. This one is not going there because of any reason. But if we are to believe the tweets to be correct, he's saying he cannot appear before clowns, corrupt guys who are idiots. And I was shocked at first. I thought that would really cause a big roar, even the speaker to get concerned, and where possible, this person, you use the procedures that are there. In the last committee meeting a few days ago, I don't know how to pronounce his name properly, but the chairperson of that committee is called Wilson Kajwenje, something. Kajwenje. Came up and was defending the CDF and was saying they don't need the CDF to be in parliament for them to resolve the issues affecting and he was supported by the vice chair, somebody called Ngompek. And I was shocked. I said, for sure, these guys, Muhoozi was right. They are idiots. Why? Because parliamentary things are not run by emotion. They are run by procedures and regulations of parliament. There is nobody in this country who is above the law. Now, I went further to analyze. Majority of these members who are on parliament were supported by the same people to go to parliament. In fact, I went further to check. Some of them had even joined PLU, this movement of. Pilao. So there is a conflict of interest. There is a conflict of interest. PLU. Where you have people who are supposed to serve in public interest, now serving the interest of the people. And for me, I think this is dangerous. We are laying a very bad precedence to this country. Now, any other officer of government, for example, supposing they call a cow and he refuses to come, will they also act like that? That's why people have argued that if somebody has been given a honor, he is a president of the country, he is the fountain of honor, he should not involve himself again in other things by appointing members of his family, members of her family. It becomes very difficult to control them. Now, sometimes you get confused. How does President Museveni relate with the Muhoozi? As son, as CDF, and if they are talking, or he summons him, and the man says, Musei, that one I'm not going to accept. Is he talking to him as his father, or he is the president? So it creates a problem. I normally find this very confusing. Even in the developed world, by the way, Trump was sworn in yesterday. He has been one of the most controversial presidents in the US. Why? He appointed members of his family in his first government, his daughter, his son, and they caused a lot of problems, which later even became court cases. And he lost most of the cases, only that he was not convicted. For me, I have been arguing that, for example, if I am a lecturer the way I am, and my daughter is in my class, it would be very wrong for me to again appoint that daughter to be the coordinator of the class. It creates a very difficult relationship problem, because when I'm talking to that daughter of mine, is he or she my daughter? For us in our university there, we are not even supposed to be in office with the same people. The law does not allow us in public service. For example, I cannot be in the same that I am the head of department and the deputy is my wife. It's not allowed. So for me, and the law is even very clear, that person can be posted to another place, even if he's of the same qualification, to avoid this conflict of interest. So this time, we don't know whether we are talking about Muhoozi the CDF or Muhoozi the son of the president. It is very problematic, especially in Africa here. You remember Angola. Angola, almost the government failed because of family leadership. The daughter was the minister of trade. The son was the minister no, it was vice versa. The son was the minister of trade. The daughter was the minister of finance. And that's why there were problems there. In Kenya here, no, in Tanzania first of all, this man was called the introducer of corruption in Tanzania, Ali Hassan Mwinyi, because the wife was involved in business. And one time, the wife is caught at the airport with smuggled in commodities. When the law tries to take its course, they say this is the wife of the president. And it creates a lot of problems. So for me, I think, to improve on our administration, there are so many gallant sons of Uganda who qualify to be CDFs. The other man is already a first son. He has a lot of privileges. The other one is a first lady, has a lot of privileges. Although some arguments come, oh, but it is democratic.
Those are nonsense.
We should not stop them. Me, I really feel that this creates a dark end in our country, which creates such problems. So Muhoozi looks at, and when you hear him talk, he's very arrogant. He calls the president daddy. Now, how do you deal with the president who is just daddy? He calls this one uncle. He calls the other. In fact, for him, in his mind, he thinks, in fact, he said, his father is God, his mother is Mary. He said it himself. And is Jesus. and then the others are disciples.
Oh, so, he is the Jesus who lives in Wachitura.
Yes.
Yeah. Eventually he explained it.
He explained the thing. So if we are running a country in the 21st century, in that draconian, stupid, uncivilized thinking, we have a very big problem. Finally, I am surprised why the president is not acting. I know President Museveni, how he loves his UPDF. Him should have acted quickly. But now, by the way, he called Luelu. Luelu is a general like him, a buffoon. And he said he's going to arrest him and also hang him. So he has a lot of people to hang. In fact, he said even us who talk about these things, after they have hanged Vesige, they have hanged Kabobi, they have hanged all those guys, they are now going to start hanging us.
Oh.
So we are many.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ojambo. We're going to take a break, and then when we return, we'll still continue with this discussion. This is the Citizens Chat Show. My name is Judith Atim. Do stay with us. See you shortly.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from the break, and glad you're still with us here on the Citizens Chat Show. My name is Judith Atim, and before we went for the break, we were talking about the defiance by the CDF to appear before Parliament's Defense Committee to explain his controversial and atrocious tweets that he has been posting on the platform, on his social platform X. Before we went to the break, Dr. Ojambo, you had just finished your submission, and now I'll come to you, Dr. Matembe. You've not been following this well, we've just been telling you. Yeah, you just see it on the news.
Some of them.
Yeah, but your thoughts, your reactions.
For me, I'm very sad, and it's unfortunate that me, Miria, with my brains and wisdom, should be here wasting my time discussing Muhoozi Kainerugaba. For what? But you people, you continue calling me and bring these subjects. And for that matter, I'm not going to discuss him, because for me, as far as I'm concerned, he's not normal. Either he is insane or he is a drunkard, or because he says he's a Muchwezi. You know, with these Bachwezi, you never know their kind of reasoning and what they think and say. So I'm not going to discuss that one. But for me, what I want to talk about is the president of this country, his father, who has demeaned Ugandans, who has reduced Ugandans to his family. And you know, let me tell you, me, even when I was a minister, member of parliament, you know, he knows how he demeans you and makes you small. You would say, hey, my daughter, my daughter. I say, excuse me, I'm here as your cabinet minister, and according to my appointment letter, I'm here to advise the president. I'm not a daughter in this home. And I used to see the vice president and all these people, when he says, my girl, you see my girl, and they smile at him and they enjoy that kind of nonsense, which I don't entertain. So this man has really reduced us as Ugandans into nothing. That's why he goes to his family and appoints his members of the family, and you, I shouldn't be discussing this, because who is ruling Uganda now?
Yeah.
Is it cabinet? No. Is it parliament? No. Even judiciary can't work, because the family, everybody who wants a job or whatever runs to who? You can imagine Miria, if I were to run Sarim Sare, no. Me, I run to my God, I'm telling you. Don't think I'm being proud or demeaning others. But I mean, there is hierarchy.
Yeah.
I mean, there is profession. There is qualification. An army commander must be a professional. Sort of, by the way, diplomatic. Because they deal with security of a nation. Security, the whole security of a nation. You hand it over into the hands of this man whom everybody says, surely, is this normal? Isn't it madness? Because how can you see somebody, he says, I will cut the head of Bobby Wine, and then Besigye. Do you know who Besigye is? When you look at this country, Uganda, and you look back to the liberation, we people who were in the bus, in the movement, whose brothers, my brothers, my cousins, my uncles, were in that bush war. They fought along with Besigye. If that war had not been won and President Museveni was made a president, who would be Muhoozi? Who can really bash Besigye like that? But do you know why he does this? His father.
Yeah.
His father is the one enabling him to do that. For instance, his father arresting Besigye, putting him in prison and torturing that man. Can't you have a soft heart? Even if Besigye did like a terrible thing, even Jesus, God forgives sinners. Would you torture him the way he's being tortured? But the father, the son is taking after the father. And secondly, why should such a boy with, I don't know whether literal sense, please forgive me, but I think out there, you people, you are joining me, although you don't speak. You must be saying, is this crazy? Is this insane? Is this a drug addict? Is this? I'm sure you are also thinking like that. And so, for this president to leave this man there, he's a commander, commander of the, I don't know how to abbreviate.
CDF.
The CDF. Me, I don't call him CDF, I call him Muhoozi. CDF cannot behave like that. CDF of a nation cannot do. The other day was saying all women belong to him. Can you imagine? You didn't see that one. All women belong to him. A person who in this country, our motto is for God and my country. Our national anthem delivers Uganda into the hands of God. And this is the very man who demeans, who mocks God. And, you know, to demean Jesus and God and say that Jesus is in Rwachtura and therefore he is the one who is Jesus. You people, do you see that person normal? No wonder me, I'm calling him insane, and I think I'm rightfully doing that. But for me, my concern is President Museveni and what he's doing to this nation. Not only before Uganda, but embarrassing us in the whole world. And my other condemnation, I don't know what to call it, is upon Ugandans. You members of parliament, no wonder this insane man is calling you what? Idiot. and crowns. Yes. No wonder he's calling you that. Because how can you be members of parliament in an institution which precedes over all institutions, the three organs of the state, the major and the superior is supposed to be parliament. Because it has all the authority. Let me tell you, parliament has authority to summon President Museveni and he comes running and attends to it. But President Museveni has no power to summon parliament. But as you know, he's always calling them to Rwachtura. He's always calling them everywhere in the bush. I see him with cows, talking with them in the cows, there in his cows, showing them how they have cows. Can you imagine? So you became idiot as an institution. That is your fault. At least this man whom I call insane, at least has got some little brains to know who you are as parliament. And call you clown and call you idiots. Because, I mean, why don't you act? Why don't you use the authority which you have? Because you have bowed. You bowed to Salim Saleh. You fight to go to him to look for whatever. You Ugandans, you are the cause of all this. If all Ugandans were to stand up the way some of us stand up and say no, no. If you are not just crazy and you crave over materialism, the small money you want, what? It is all about self-centeredness. It is all about materialism. It is all about no wonder the man is abusing. And let me tell you, if that man called some of those members of parliament, come and give you some money, they would run and get the money and forget that they had called him there. So let us not condemn this man. Let us look at the two categories, the president himself and the people of Uganda, especially those who have the power and authority to redeem this nation. You have failed to redeem it. Now, as for me, I want to say, surely, if President Museveni is the president that he should be, that any other people see, even colleague presidents see, he should get this man out of that office immediately. But if he's behaving like his son, it is up to Ugandans now to raise up also and say enough is enough. I heard you saying that after killing Besigye on 9th, then he will come to us.
Who keep abusing the mother and him. And
for me, I will talk with my tongue, and I can assure you that man Muhoozi, his father, or whoever is thinking they can get Matembe and kill her, forget it. And unless and until my God says it is time for you, my dear servant, to part, all of you, I will talk and I will talk until God hears us and redeems this nation. And by the way, it may not be very far.
Thank you, Dr. Matembe. Joseph.
Let it be. You know, I actually don't know where to start, but, and I might forget, you know, we organized this, but, you know, the Terry guy writes it formally, so sometimes so you miss some of these things. But it's very important. But whatever the case, I just look back as Dr. Matembe is talking about Parliament, and I see how legislators, some of whom are very fine people, many of them are my friends, and you see these guys rushing to go and literally kneel for young Mr. Muhoozi in Teso. So these guys queued, you know, legislators, fantastic, handsome, beautiful, very intelligent guys, legislators, honorables, queuing to go to Anita Mong's home in Teso, passing via Mukura, where, you know, NRA did some havoc there, but going to Anita Mong's home, you know, which home looks like a school, some kind of average 4-5-star hotel kind of stuff, and nobody can explain how an average legislator, over a period of time that Anita Mong has spent in Parliament, can and should be able to afford that.
Speaker for 3 years, he had been for 3 years or 2 when he built it.
And Ugandans critique the spend time, as we hear, at least as a panel, anchored by fantastic Judith. Ugandans actually watch us, the particular category of Ugandans who actually watch us, and they think they've done a fantastic job in the evening over beer. They're critiquing this thing and then they clap and laugh for them. And some of them are young men and they go home thinking they've done a day's business. No, I think there's something criminally happening in this country, and maybe all of us have elements of criminal liability on this. That happened, and people thought it was business as usual, queuing up to go to this young man. Something else happened in Tororo. Muhoozi's boss is Minister of Defense, Jacob Obothobot, fantastic guy, a friend of mine, you know, and we are from Tororo together. That's a friend of mine. Jacob is appointed by Muhoozi's father. He organizes an event, a party, to celebrate his God for giving Museveni the privilege to give him position. And Muhoozi is the chief guest. And so, Minister of Defense and an army officer who should answer to him. So in terms of protocol, who calls who to speak? I had observations about this thing, but I held back, as I said, because I really didn't want to over-conflict or go down there. But fast forward the other day, these guys go to sit at the parliamentary committee, and Muhoozi is instructed to come to attend. And here's Jacob Obothobot. Really, the point is, Jacob Obothobot should instruct on the CDF to come, because that is a political force. Power belongs to the people, and who has got the supremacy? Really, the Minister of Defense, because the army should bow to the civilian authority. That didn't happen.
Let me tell you, sorry. When Mugisha Muntu was the army commander, he used to salute me, and I would, because there's an army commander. When you meet, I was the Minister for Ethics and Integrity. When he meets me, he would salute. You see, now your friend is the one saluting.
Can you imagine? And that sort of, in a way, is the terrible thing. And then finally, to be fair to this NRA as an army, there is another Muhoozi. And I'm very critical about this organization and this regime. But there is another Muhoozi, David.
Internal
He is criminally minister because he's a serving army officer, and I'm opposed to this. They're basically literally abusing us. But you know what? Meet David Muhoozi on average in a public space. He's a decent young man, a decent gentleman. You know? And so Dr. Matembe said, so what is wrong with Mr. Museveni? Where is he taking Ugandans except using Uganda and Ugandans basically as a dice for his family? You know? So there are soldiers out there who got the training, capacity, organization, responsibility, discipline to be able to serve in these important positions, including Awich. Awich is an NRA Kadogo, you know, who survived those fires, went through to entire school as a little boy, you know, went in to go to law schools and do whatever.
Studied with my boy.
You know, apparently he says your boys are fantastic.
Yes.
You know, he told us before. You know, Awich here. Why doesn't Museveni? Because you talk about the retirement. Museveni has got the capacity to give him rank and then do whatever, and then you're on command. These guys are there. You know, so what is it except that Museveni is basically playing us as a country and as a people? And then finally, as you said, when this happened, Judith, I was attending a graduation for my nephew, plus many other things, fantastic events of this parliamentary committee things, and I also met some senior soldiers who talked about these things and the fact that some of their colleagues were not there without detail. I was hoping that over the weekend we were going to have war. So what was going to happen? You know, Parliament had instructed Muhoozi to attend on that Monday thing. So all of us were basically busy waiting on Monday, only to see the headlines from Kajwenge saying that, oh, you see, you can. So basically we're just literally being taken for a ride. And so as a country, and particularly a country with this history, Comrade Awich, where he is the manifestation of the early bit of it, and she's the history of attempting to make it contextually right, you know. And as I said, I don't agree with the context of the broad because I don't want to go to that. There's no reason why in this day and age we should be subjected to the insults that Muhoozi is subjecting Ugandans, subjecting our legislators, and particularly Dr. Matembe, that threat to behead Besigye, that threat to behead
Chagulani
is
a leader of the official opposition, and the country is quiet.
Those are your Ugandans.
And I also then ask, where are leaders of political parties? I'm serious this. My colleagues in political parties. Where are civil society leaders? Where are guys in the judiciary, perhaps even retired judges, if it were? But most importantly, where are religious leaders? So where exactly is this country? It worries me.
Bowed before the big man.
And it worries me. And if you see now the most recent tweets, which is the one that he just released, I think it was yesterday, Thursday. And then you wonder, how much and how far is it going? But the most important question is
going to demonstrate.
Where is Mr. Museveni, this young man's father? What does he think? Even if the boy is insane, it's actually in the father's interest to basically put him aside and, as I said, make sure that somebody else comes and takes the position. But the fact that he's not able to do so worries me, because the witches know the state of mind of, I hope, of Mr. Museveni and the state of health of Mr. Museveni and his son and his family. We don't know. But I just generally get worried that if this guy is the president and holds that office, and his son is actually the army commander, and they're behaving like that, and there is nothing that can be done, including the fact that the institution of parliament has got the incapacity to do anything, then really, 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 we are in a very, very difficult time. And I worry for this country. Yeah.
Thank you. Major, the microphone is yours.
You just throw it like that without telling me what to do.
Because I know you've been listening to what have talked about, but your response, of course, and your thoughts.
The topic on the table is the
comments.
The comments by General Muhoozi. Now, as we started earlier, right from the 18th of December last year, 27th, I was in South Africa. Then I came back on the 4th to 15th, I was in Venezuela. Then the next day, 16th, I was in South Africa, Tanzania until yesterday. So most of the information that is being discussed are so scanty to me. I hear it in the rumors, and as a party person, I should even have had the capacity to find out from responsible people, but I've not been around. But part of the rumors I hear is that I saw Balaam said it was hacked. So it even confuses me more. Was it from General Muhoozi? Was it hacked? So with this, I therefore don't have capacity to comment on this subject matter. Maybe if I find it, since we are regular here, I'll talk about it next time. So about the general's comment, that is where I leave it.
That was the question.
Yeah, the other thing is about the appearance of, it was mentioned, the appearance of the First Lady and Tafire. I think if we are to look at institutions as an institutional framework, the Ministry of Education would have its institutional framework. In fact, to some extent, even a letter written to the minister is copied to the other state ministers to make them be in the know. But also there is a cabinet meeting in that ministry, like the three should meet. And also there's top management where they meet. Therefore, the presumption is that whatever comes from Ministry X is known by other ministers. So if it is for health implication, the Fountain of Honor feared that his wife's indulgence in the community in parliament was unhealthy. I still don't find it so grave that a state minister who institutionally should know everything in the ministry can answer. And of course, the absence of the First Lady, I'm sure, should be in consonance with the rules of procedure, which they write to the Speaker, and they tell the Speaker, for this and this reason, I am unable to appear. So it wouldn't be in violation of any law, as long as the accountability, the queries raised by Parliament, is answered by a state minister who institutionally, through their cabinet small meeting of the three cabinets in the ministry, get to know. Through every communication that goes, is copied to the other state ministers through their top management that they have. So I want to say that. Now, on Tafire, I've lived with Tafire for long. In NRA, I know him very well. He knows me. I don't see a fault. Tafire has been appearing, unless I'm cited the particular incidents that he has refused. He comes to parliament, and even when in substance, it is in consonance with the law. For example, recently when there was an outcry about gunning suspects in a Acacia Mall, Otafire was there in parliament. He responded. He condemned police. He said he wanted a report because nobody has power to do extrajudicial killing in Uganda. He replied in parliament. So I think on those two, I wanted to make that clarification because Otafire is a very thorough person. He's a very intelligent. Did you know that he's very intelligent?
He is.
He is. And he respects the rule of law.
He's the one who introduced the business of bullies.
Can I tell you that Otafire, just as a test, Otafire went for a course in Bombo, which was done by Tanzanians. And he would sleep in the course. Then the instructors would pour water on him to wake him up. Then he would just sleep again. But when it came to test with all the graduates in the course, he got the best, 99%. At one incident, he came home for leave, and General Katerima was taking notes, so he photocopied Katerima's notes, and he was the best in class. Katerima said, "You man, you photocopied my notes." And yet Katerima is an OB of entirely 6 years with a degree in agriculture from Makere. But Otafire beat them.
But
so
with respect, and it's fair enough. He's funny and he must be a clever guy. I really didn't know that background. Didn't bother. For us, very much about deliverables. But in any case, his cleverness has not helped us as a country pay huge amount of money.
It has to the extent
in commitment to the Congolese.
No, to the subject matter that we are addressing on response to Parliament. Respect to the legislature. Does he respond? Does he not?
Actually, we are discussing only that one who defied.
Yeah.
But
in context,
the other one was not a subject.
I wanted to clear that. The other thing is that Honorable Matembe talks about redeeming the country, and as far as the leadership is concerned. Of course, Honorable Matembe made the constitution. Redeeming was presupposed to be in Article 1. Power belongs to the people. And I think the attempt or the window for redeeming is every 5-year cycle, which we have. And therefore, we hope that this argumentation of the ills, the perceived ill by some people and the perceived good by some people, we put it in a pot, in the pot of Uganda. It melts there. Then, in 2026, people vote. Then we see, because that's the only constitutional remedy that we have. If the people so wish, then the people will do that. Because at that time, both parties would have said their views. Those who see things wrong would have said it. And those who see that they have tried to attempt would do it. So it will be in the melting pot, and then the people will see. If the people so wish that their redeeming is to make this other one, then be it. Finally, the congressman says that I am good and I should be given. No, Congress, I'm very comfortable. Museveni has given. Do you know the importance of Director of External Affairs? I'm supposed to put NRM in the global world. Yes, a global world. There was a move in Germany to attempt to exclude us as non-democratic because of the false reporting. Have to fight back to make sure we are known among the civilized and democratic institutions.
You're doing a good job for him.
Don't cry for me. Don't cry for me that I have not been put. I have been put.
You're satisfied.
I don't want it to be heard that I was heard crying. I'm not crying.
Okay, me, I want to make a comment.
Please.
You about my redeeming. You being a young man who studied, and I'm not demeaning you.
I studied with your son.
Studied with my boys at the time.
Is they doing?
You did not experience what me, Matembe, experienced, and all my colleagues, who, when we wrote the Constitution, we put down what the people of Uganda wanted, the presidential term limit. Because we wrote that Constitution against what we had seen. Presidents who did not want to leave power peacefully, who did not want to hand over power peacefully. And by then, also, elections were there. They were there. He will tell you in 1980 there were elections. And I remember your president, whom you cherish so much, coming with vibrance and telling us that democracy is not in a form, it is in substance. It is not just seen through elections by word of mouth, but in the real substance of democracy. And for me, you may not agree with me, this one, but at least I can say that I experienced some democracy during the movement time. At least, should I say, for the first 10 years, where we would sit and all of us discuss and disagree, and tomorrow I agree, tomorrow I disagree, we continue, we get a decision, and we move on. And for me, I don't agree with all these people who say that since Museveni came power and NRM, they've never seen any good. Those also must be crazy. Or maybe they are new, they were not during our time. Because there is a period when we know, even during the time of making the constitution, even when we are saying, yes, I used to stand up and disagree with the president, and tomorrow I would agree with him, taking what is right and what the majority is thinking is right. Democracy in substance. I didn't know that President Museveni, he has gone against his words, all the words that he used to say that enable us to embrace him. He has all of them gone against them and become like the other people he was removing. And so, when I say redeeming Uganda, we had wanted to redeem it from that the leaders who did not want to leave power peacefully, to hand over power peacefully. And you, my friend, my son, by then, the longest leader had served for 9 years. But now is a man going into 40 years. When some of us, when you see us really so sad and completely unhappy, because of the deceit that this man came in and deceived us completely, and down the road he did much more worse than the predecessors. Because really for us to see this president who came and even wrote a book, who knows the problem with the Africans and Ugandans refusing to leave power peacefully, when he has behaved like Animal Farm, if you have read the book of Animal Farm. Now, when I say redemption of Uganda, you have just even right now criticized the electoral, already the registration, the electoral processes, and you know very well that in Uganda here, there is not what you call, you can't say that the president wins the elections. He doesn't win. The other time we were saying that Chaguran
stole 1 million.
1 million.
The guy really
so he knows that the elections are rigged all the time. You see, he went to Sorot, was it Sorot, where he said, oh, you people, you are rigging. First of all, the issue of Soro candidature. Soro candidature. Any sensible, reasonable person in this country, in a party, to cling to Soro candidature. And I see you saying, except for this man, if he's not there, I ask, if he's not there, will Uganda stop to exist? I wish I could put sense into the heads of all these blinded, over spiritually blinded, over blood, where their ears are clasped and their eyes, and I see them. The other day I saw this vice president. Where does he come from? He was there.
Katakwi.
He was there.
Good.
The vice president.
Yes.
She was there. yellow women, this is our man, he must come back. And I say, I wish I had not mobilized these women and fought for their equality and empowerment.
Yeah.
I wish I had not done that. Because for people to be blinded and imagine that if this man stops to exist, Uganda will not be. Please, please, when I say Uganda's redemption, I mean it. And I'm not alone. Uganda's redemption from violence, from this torture, from the suffering, from the corruption, from the greed, from materialism, from grab of land, from all this suffering of Ugandans. I'm talking of that kind of redeeming this country and beginning on the first step since we lost it when we changed the constitution. That's what I mean, and I mean it. And I have many, many people with me out there.
Thank you, Dr. Matembe. And lastly, I think in about 10 minutes or so, I'd just like us to move further out of here. Donald Trump on Monday was inaugurated. He took office for the second term. And with that, he also came with a raft of executive orders, about 42 or so of them. Most of them, of course, are not relevant to our context here, but I think I'll just pick two, which is one, pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement and, of course, withdrawing from the World Health Organization. The implications, there has been a lot of talk, of course, globally and also locally here about the implications for the rest of the world, considering the fact that the US has been a very big, perhaps the biggest funder to the World Health Organization. And regardless of the opinions people have about the World Health Organization and what it continues to do, it is evident that the World Health Organization has been pivotal in addressing global public health issues, from eradicating smallpox to also responding to the HIV and AIDS crisis in the global south, including here in Uganda, providing access to antiretroviral therapy and so many others, vaccines for children and even adults. Clearly, it has played a tremendous role. But for us as a country, how concerned should we be that the biggest funder has actually pulled out? And what does this mean to us as a country? What does this mean to maybe our local drug developers, local pharmaceuticals, and so on? Is this the time that we would see perhaps African pharmaceuticals emerging to fill this gap? Is this the time for African medical experts to also grow and respond or plug in some of the gaps that actually emerge from this withdrawal of the US from the World Health Organization? I'll start with you, and we just have very few minutes.
Judith,
so we'll
quickly, I have been arguing with the people over Trump and Trump's candidature in the United States. My argument has been that it's high time Africans start looking at their problems and not looking at a big brother. And because of that, I was an ardent supporter of Donald Trump. And it was because of what he had put in place to his people in America. In fact, somebody threatened me that Trump was going to perform badly. The results showed the opposite. He defeated the DP both in the general elections and in the colleges. Both of them, hands down, has the highest number of Congress, has the highest number of senators. So Trump is in charge of America. And it looks like he spoke the voices of the Americans, including the black people. I was shocked that even the black states voted him overwhelmingly. You have just said that he started by signing those things. By the way, he signed 206 of them, for you just chose those 26. But when you look at them very carefully, they speak to the hearts of Americans. They are against Africa because Africans have been benefiting there as beggars, as refugees, as many things. They want to be supported in war. They want to be supported in this. And Trump is saying this is high time we close this. Remember, Trump did not believe in the things of WHO, you remember his controversy on COVID-19 and many other issues. And for me, I like these decisive leaders like Trump. If we had African decisive leaders like Trump who think about their people. One of the things he has done is to limit expenditure. And this expenditure is stopping it through the things you have talked about, the Paris conference, the World Health Organization, and so on. For me, I really believe that we should not be angry with Trump. Although we should use Trump's policies to now realign our policies. I think if Uganda is serious, we can manage now our problems. They have given us a leverage, they have put us somewhere. We need now to see how we can immunize ourselves if immunization is necessary. We need to see how we can help in the fight against HIV as a country. Other people can help, but we need to see how we can help it. So in brief, Judith, what I can tell you, I think Trump is doing what is good for his people. And therefore, for us also, we need to do what is good for us. And for that matter, I have been in America a few times, and I've never admired living there because I really find it a very hopeless place. But there are many young people who want to go to America. And Trump is not saying that if you're a young man, you have passed through the normal program, you have gotten a good visa, you have gotten a good work permit, you cannot, a green card, you cannot go to America. He's against illegal immigration. So for me, I really feel, Judith, not to waste a lot of time, I agree with the Trump in all his directives that he has signed because they are good for the Americans. And we need also, when next year we vote, we need the president to come up with very clear policies that favor Ugandans in terms of land acquisition, in terms of job acquisition, in terms of tax regime, in terms of so many things. For us in Africa, we want so much to help the foreigners. For example, a foreigner comes here with a bag and is given money to establish a business, free land, and it becomes a burden to us. Trump is a good lesson to Africa. Many African leaders need to learn from Trump and protect their people.
Thank you.
I think I personally
no
agree
problem.
with you.
It's fine. Let's get to you, Joseph.
I'd just like to say that I think, as Dr. Jambo said, partly because of time, that whatever happens in America, it's time really that Africans we started looking slightly much more inward. Trump, I don't support him. I didn't support him. I think he's a narcissist. And I know that many people have been emotively following Trump. Some of Trump's domestic policies in America, impact on Africans. America has a huge population, which is basically African population. Many of the people whom Trump is building walls against are Africans from South America, who are our brothers and sisters who were pushed away by slavery. And I can go on and on and on. But that said, if only we invested in our own education and health instead of investing in families and family rule, whatever is happening from World Health Organization and others would possibly impact on us less. In fact, the address on the question of World Health Organization, brings us back to the topic of Mr. Museveni. In my Tororo, the big research center, the Trypanosomiasis Research Center in Tororo, which has now been sold to Chinese, is a research. Yes, it's a research center that was amongst the best in East Africa, and one that perhaps I argued would have been part of the centers really if you followed what the things were doing in the 60s and parts of the early 70s, even part of Idi Amin's time, would have been centers of excellence for curbing issues and things to do like with not only HIV/AIDS but also with COVID. So if we did that, maybe we would be less dependent on the West. Now, interestingly, one of the biggest providers for our drugs are India. If you look back to where we were at the beginning of our independence, I know we had some elements of what some of our colleagues call troubled past. But no, we had built foundations, and now our independence has been sold. I know the guys who are enjoying Trump, the comrade Awich, is partly because of American exceptionalism policies, which basically means that they're going to be paying less attention to what dictators on the continent, like those in NRA, do so. They're privileged to do so. Quickly, we must know that there are many, many, many contemporary Africans who are going to be affected by Trump's policies. And again, the other thing is, while we say that Dr. Jambo may not necessarily be interested in America and Othieno may not necessarily be interested in America, there are many of our people here who are victims of terrible NRA policies, who want to go to many of these places to study, who want to go to many of these places to work, and particularly those who go miserably as visitors, who go and then on landing on these people's spaces, they're looked at as like mini animals. That's why it's urgent that we sort out our national questions, national security questions, national identity questions, leadership issues, and create an enabling environment in which in Uganda, in the unlikely event that we want to go and visit America, and in the unlikely event that we want to go and work in America, we should go down up there with our heads high, rather than going to those places. And when you say you're a Ugandan, then they wonder whether or not you got a commander-in-chief who has got his senses in, or perhaps one who tasted slightly a few more glasses of wine, more than average.
Thank you, Joseph. Major Awich, your thoughts also on this Trump?
The Trump thing,
yeah.
First of all, one thing I picked from Trump was the issue of gender.
Yes.
Which is good for us, because I don't know what Honorable Matembe says, but I think we kind of get to know from our Bible that God created Adam and Eve. These guys had created their own gender called queer, to the extent that they even have toilet where it is shared, a toilet for men and women, because you are all the same. So that kind of category. Trump is saying we only know female, male. And by implication, it will therefore have impact on same sex. He is also against gender mainstreaming. The gender mainstreaming that he's talking about is, did you know that it was a rule that before you employ 10 people, 3 must be homosexuals? Or they want to see that your organization has it. Trump has said nothing like that.
Inclusiveness, not mainstreaming.
Inclusiveness. Yeah, inclusiveness. So gender is saying, so Trump is saying no. Therefore, it will have impact on this. If it could save us, to some of us who think, we really think God created Adam and Eve, then we are okay. But also by implication, Congress may not like this. They will now not be on us. For example, in Africa, it was only Ghana and Uganda that had passed Anti-Homosexuality Act. The rest of these countries had cowardice. Now I'm going to see how they will psychophantically go back to America. Say, okay, even as we were against, you were against when we were passing the law, where were you? Now when America becomes to be against, they say even as we were against, we stood with Ghana too. So that is what I picked from. Now on environment and world health, let them pull out. Maybe Chinese will come in with their money to fill the gap. But even if it doesn't, normally a cure will come. In that, if the world comes into that catastrophic health situation, definitely USA will have no way but to come back if it needs them. So let's stay and watch. Finally, I concur with Dr. Professor Jam that really going to America and living, I have got job offers in America myself. And I've won 2 elections in America, in UN General Assembly, to go and work in Geneva. But I strictly stay for that. I was in America a few months ago for work. It's a beautiful country, very developed country. But for me, my view is like you. It's full of don'ts. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't. Do you know that the way we admire, the way Matembe was saying, the Western women with cabina, America, somebody can sue you for admiring my cabina, take you to court. The whole society is don't. You know, America is governed by laws. Why? Because America is a no-man land. The whites went and exterminated the red Indians. So French came, Germans came, English came, whatever came. Now these people have no norms. So the only thing that can govern is a law above all of them. They are governed, hanged by the law. In UK, for example, the whites moved from the mainland Europe to the water. When they went to the water, they crystallized their own civilization. That is why in UK there's no written constitution, and yet they are democratic. Because they know do's and do's and do's. Now in America, where you have the German, the French, the Algerian, the what, the Chinese, what do you follow? Law. So the country, as you admire, is a country of dons. Dons, because the only way to govern such a Togo country, where everybody's culture is, yours is different, mine is different, ours is different, this is Chinese, this is French, this is German. It is culture. So he would think twice to live in a society where you are surrounded by dons. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this. Don't. You look at my cabinet, I sue you. Why were you looking at me?
But why do you bring cabinet here now?
How about the one who was shown? So
he's trying to blackmail the ministry of emotion.
Giving you an example that in America anybody can sue you for anything.
Yeah,
and then that is what they do. You want they don't country for reason that is such a cosmopolitan society where there's no easy culture to follow. The only culture to follow is the law to hang all over us.
Which is your culture here?
Have you concluded,
yes.
Major? Thank you very much. I think I'll now ask each of you to I'll give you each a minute to conclude, and we just call it a day.
Yeah, I will begin. I really want to say that this country, if we manage ourselves well, we would not be worried about America, what America is doing. I just normally give an example. Chambogo University runs on a budget of 136 billion shillings a whole year to run all the activities of the university. You are surprised when in a supplementary budget they give Magola 763 billion shillings that to start a laboratory to produce a vaccine for sleeping sickness, and this disease is called what? Foot and mouth disease. So you wonder, in our government, do we have really people who think if a university can run at 138 billion shillings, how can an individual get 763 billion to start up a laboratory which is not even there? So if that money, for example, was put to Makerere University, was put to Chambogo, we would have so many laboratories and you would not be worried of World Health Organization coming here.
Thank you very much. Dr.
In fact, for me, where I still continue to say that to call upon Ugandans to wake up in relation to what we've been discussing, the behavior, the defiance of the right way to behave. First of all, Parliament, wake up, please. We are really tired. We are fed up to have given you our power, and you just become like what Muhoozi says. And secondly, Ugandans. I don't know why Ugandans, you are so scared, so scared. Like you said, where is the church? Where is what? Where is what? The people are just quiet. They just quiet because they are scared. They are scared, I think, for their lives. And some of them are scared because of what to eat, the kamane, the kajob, the what kind of thing. They are scared and they leave things go as whom it may concern. So, for the Parliament, my advice to you, please call that president of yours, because you have the right to do that, and command him actually to remove that insane person from embarrassing our nation, surely, and demeaning us. Now, as for, I want to conclude on Africans. You know, for me, I have always, whenever the development partners said we are not going to give them money because of this, because like they were saying, because of LGBT, we are not going to give them money. Let them take their money. I've been always saying, at least if we were abandoned, maybe we would wake up and look internally into our resources and see how we can also put terms. You people, these Europeans, these Dubai people, all these who are taking our minerals, even China here. China here is just taking all our things and say, oh, it is developing us. For me, I wish we could be abandoned and left as God created us, with all the minerals, with all our resources, which they are taking. And when they bring in money, they said it is loans or whatever. They end up eating all the money. Didn't you see Auditor General's report? All this money they bring, whether from America, Europe, or where does it end? You are talking of health, medical, and so on. Have you been to the hospitals in Mulago? Have you been to cancer clinic? Every hospital, everywhere. Do you know that Ugandans, when Ugandans go to Nairobi, like you get treated here, you get medicine, you are not being healed. The moment you cross over to Nairobi, and there are Ugandan doctors there, they look at the medicine that has been prescribed to you. They say, what is this? Cast it into the dustbin. Already, whether the World Health Organization is doing work here or what, and not knowing what they are doing these days, the good work the World Health Organization was doing is no more. If anything, when you read what they do, making things which are going to kill us, they would rather stay there and we see how we use our herbs. Don't you think we can also develop our herbs? Our people in the village, what do they depend on? On these herbs. So me saying that America is now deserting us, okay, America is not our God. America is not our God. If they desert us, God will give us a way. And we shouldn't just cry now. When we cry like that, that's why they call us rubbish. Don't you remember when he was calling us fools, calling us nonsense, calling us... And I said, this man is right to call us all this. Last time, I said, he's right to call us all this. We are here, we have resources, we have everything. Why should we behave the way we behave? Like dogs which bow down to even nonsense, when we should rise up and say, no, this can't work.
Thank you. Joseph, your concluding.
Dr. Jambo talks about the research, and I repeat what I was saying, Marcella, because of time, that the largest research center in East Africa, up to really around the time NRM came to power, was my Tororo Trypanosomiasis Center. It's a difficult pronunciation.
It is correct.
Trypanosomiasis. I always struggle with this. Research center in Tororo. That place is now a slum. The land was sold to a Chinese company and a grouping of people. And in fact, apart from there's even controversies involving some NRA people who ate money and allegedly embarrassed even Mr. Museveni. So he knows about this. So if we did this, many of these things would not necessarily be relevant. But bottom line really is also a question of governance. Judith, from independence, the first 8 years of our independence, notwithstanding everything else, we turned around our national economy using predominantly domestically generated resources. That we invested in our health, invested in our education, invested in our infrastructure, invested in every facet of our economy, including opening up and starting up our own indigenous banks. Last week, I was talking to a fantastic young, beautiful, a successful banker, a banking executive at the top end. It was actually quite surprising that when I was talking about her, Dr. Matembe, she actually didn't know about the history, including about the Uganda Commercial Bank. And she had worked in Stanbic for about a year or so. Yeah, I found it actually quite strange. But that's an important message to Ugandans, particularly young Ugandans, in terms of possibilities of our ownership as a country. Finally, I think this continent urgently needs leadership. And if we got leadership as a continent that some of our founding independent parents did, the Trump element would be substantially irrelevant. In conclusion, in 2002, at his balcony in Lusaka, in his exile, of course, Milton Obote, one of the things the guy told me was that, Joe, merely on the question of perception of corruption, for the 2 times I was president, my close family members were under instructions that none of them would have a bank account abroad.
Actually, he was not corrupt.
I was bringing that cultural thing from a point of view of leadership. And maybe for you, Comrade Mr. Museveni, to think and to reconsider around your conscience about your family, ownership and control, and really this thing called corruption. If we actually had leadership in this country, which is really possible, and that leadership can really now begin to be about conversations by Ugandans outside NRA and outside Mr. Museveni, but all of us Ugandans, including people in NRA, NRM, that we need to actively, quickly think about a new direction for our country and also generally a new direction for our continent. And as long as we do that, it will not necessarily matter what happens in America and what election outcomes in China, wherever it is, that Africans as a continent, we're already rich enough, sufficient to be able to do that, but we need leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. Lastly.
My conclusion is that we have started the year with a good, I could say on a good tone with the American swearing in of Trump. It feeds in back to our domestic issues. Whether it makes us now reconfigure, think about ourselves, how to do things on our own, or otherwise. But also, as I said, they seem to relax their fingers from us. In as far as sanctions on gender matters is concerned, we are free. Therefore, let us do our work properly, including Justice Bialakama. We should do, the Election Commission should gear up, should put gear number 1 strong enough so that these 21 days are properly utilized, so that we have a credible election next year. And it is only through election that we hear the voices of the people. If the people so wish, as they may think, then be it. So, foreign affairs from America, feeding in to set us free, to make us rethink about ourselves, and our own Ugandans doing our own things so that we move forward.
Thank you very much, Major. Thank you to all my guests, Dr. Robert Ojambo, Honorable Dr. Miria, Matembe, Mr. Joseph Othieno, and retired Major Awich Pollar. This brings us to the end of this edition of the Citizens Chat Show. We've been discussing the ongoing update of the National Voters Register by the Electoral Commission and the defiance by the Chief of Defense Forces to appear before the Parliamentary Committee on Defense, as well as implications of Trump's executive orders. My name is Judith Atim. Thank you very much for being with us this far, and we'll be back next week, same time. See you then.